back. Time for another edition of the Carolina Insider. It's a rapid reactions edition presented by Modelo. After the Tar Heels, for just the second time this year, fall at home and do so in dramatic fashion. A shot made by Jalen Blakes of Stanford with 1.5 seconds to go ends up giving the Cardinal the 72-71 win. It is the 9th game decided by 6 points or less, so a 2-possession game. Tar Heels are 5-4 now in those 9 games. Jones Angell Adam Lucas here, and I had a conversation with Coach Davis. You'll see that in just a second. And, Adam, just a spoiler alert, one of the things Hubert Davis says is that a lot of little mistakes added up to a big negative result, and I think that's right. And it's traditionally this way in a one-point game, of course. But there are some individual moments and plays and things that happen that you can point at that helped Carolina or hurt Carolina to the point that they do not win the game. But I think it can overall be explained as Stanford executed down the stretch more effectively than the Tar Heels did.
Yeah, I think if we were going to go through it frame by frame, we'd pull out basically everything that happened in the last 3 minutes. And the Cardinal was doing what they needed to do. I mean, a lot of people are going to talk about the 7-footer, Maxime Reynaud. He was very good as advertised. But honestly, and Hubert Davis will talk about this with you, it was Jalen Blakes who was a problem because the Tar Heels couldn't stop him, most notably on the last play of the game where he went almost the full 94 feet to win the game.
Reynaud, the big man, finishes with 25 points and 13 rebounds. He did have to take 24 shots. It felt like Carolina did a pretty good job, honestly, defensively in the second half against Reynaud, although he hit a big three-pointer that took Carolina's lead from 4 down to 1 in the final minutes. But Blake's 20 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, and just 1 turnover for the Cardinal, and you'll hear Hubert Davis talk about that in a second. For Carolina, 19 points and 5 assists for R.J. Davis, 12 points, 6 rebounds, 5 assists, no turnovers for Cadeau. Vinal Lubin, who played the most in the post today, he was the most effective against Reynaud, finished with 13 points and 5 rebounds. Adam, again, there are a couple different stretches that you could pick out. I do think a couple of key possessions. One, Stanford had a 1-3-1 zone, which Carolina, I thought, did a pretty good job against. Not that they scored every time, but the Tar Heels were getting pretty clean looks against it. But they turned it over. R.J. Davis trying to pass it out on the perimeter, well out on the perimeter, closer to the timeline, back and forth with Elliot Cadeau, and just had it taken away. I believe it was Donovan Young at the top of that zone that took the ball away. Again, against the zone, Carolina had really good ball movement. Found Ian Jackson wide open for a corner 3 that just did not go in, and Ian Jackson did not shoot well today. 1 of 8 from the field, 0 of 5 from 3. We know how outstanding he has been, but did not shoot it well today. And then there was a possession, and Adam, Carolina had the ball in the lead. I think the lead was maybe 3, but I might be wrong about that. Had gotten a couple stops in a row and was on the fast break, stopped it to try and set up a play, and it looked like Carolina was confused about what play to run, and R.J. Davis eventually got his shot blocked, and it was a shot clock violation. So, again, in a close game, you can pull out these individual plays that didn't go right, just like when you win a close game, you can pull out individual plays that did go right that helped you win. But a couple of execution issues there from the Tar Heels.
Carolina just didn't look very instinctive today.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times it looked like they were having to give heavy thought to whatever they were going to do next, and several times they made one pass too many, trying to avoid Reynaud, I guess, under the rim, but also just not attacking. I mean, you talked about Ian Jackson's 1 for 8. Only 3 of those were 2-pointers, where he's been so efficient. I mean, he's going to have a day where he misses threes. But the Tar Heels weren't able to get to the rim. Some of the reason was because Reynaud was standing under there, but it felt like they were maybe a little too concerned about it. And in a close game, you can't give away those easy baskets like that.
All right, let's get to my conversation with Hubert Davis. We'll come back and wrap things up on the back half here of a rapid reaction edition of the Carolina Insider. Disappointing finish, obviously, here in the Smith Center with Stanford getting the 1-point win, 72-71. I am inside the Continental Tire Coach's Corner with the head coach of the Tar Heels, Hubert Davis. And, Coach, close game. It was close the entire time. Your thoughts on this one today in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, We just made too many mistakes to win the game today, and it wasn't one big thing here or one big thing there. It was just a number of little mistakes everywhere on both ends of the floor, whether it was, you know, attention to detail, out of bounds underneath, box out, defending without fouling, being in the right spots offensively, shot selection, turning the ball over, just different stuff like that, execution. And so when those little things continue to add up, big things happen. And tonight, those big things resulted in a loss.
Similar, situation to the end of the Notre Dame game as far as the defensive situation that you were in with a couple seconds left and then inbounding on the extra baseline. Is there a way to get better resistance in your mind? I know you're concerned about fouling in that situation. What would you have liked defensively in that sequence?
Well, obviously a missed shot, but we had a man-on-man. He came down and shot a mid-range jump shot and made it. And, unlike UCLA, unlike NC State, unlike Notre Dame, we didn't get the stop.
Reynaud knew he was a good player, obviously played very well. Yeah. How did Blake's, in your mind, then kill you, as you said?
Well, that's a wrong word. He played really well against us. I apologize for that. But he dominated us, whether, with just the ball, getting to his spots, his presence defensively, his ability to play under control on the offensive end, to get the shot that he wanted, and also the shot for his teammate. And Maxime he's one of the better players in the country, but Blake's was the deciding factor, not just on the last second shot, but just the entire game. I just felt like there were points where he dominated us from a physicality standpoint, defensively, effort, offense on the offensive end.
Two more quick things, Coach. Felt like Vin Lubin gave you some good minutes today and defending Reynaud and doing some other things. And he was out there a bunch. What'd you see from Vin this afternoon?
Well, just, I do think he did some really good things for us. He can move his feet and can be active. Even though he doesn't have the size of Maxine, he can move his feet and be active defensively, especially on ball screens. And so he did some nice things for us. But as I said before, just a number of little mistakes from start to finish that resulted in us just not coming out as a win.
Last thing, and obviously it's a team game, win or lose. First time we've really seen Ian Jackson struggle to knock in shots, 1 of 8 from the field today. He's, of course, been on such an incredible run. Do you have any message for him as just being a young guy, anything that you say to Ian?
Well, basketball is basketball. Basketball is no different than life. There's going to be sunny days and rainy days and windy and clear skies. And I wish we can all score 20 points a game and win every game. That's just not life, and it just doesn't happen in basketball. And so, you just always have to show up, irregardless of the outcome, to come to work hard and continue to improve. We can all get better, and Ian has done that all year, and he'll continue to do that for the remainder of the season.
All right, guys, tough one today in the Smith Center. Tar Heels will be in Winston on Tuesday to face Wake Forest. But that'll do it for us here in the Continental Tire Coach's Corner. So, Adam, a damaging loss for Carolina today in the sense that the Tar Heels had put themselves record-wise in a position with a very difficult non-conference that Carolina had some success against, but not as much as it would like. That after that Louisville game, the Heels were sitting there at 8-6. They get a couple wins in a row, played better, but the point of this ramp-up is they didn't give themselves much wiggle room to lose a game outside of some games against some of the better teams in the league, Duke, Clemson, Louisville, etc. Stanford is a solid team, but they are not one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the ACC. And so to lose a game at home against what will be a quad 3 opponent, at least at the moment it is, gives Carolina a blemish on its strongest argument, which was the Tar Heels don't have any bad losses, and now unfortunately they do. At least metrics say they do.
You had to hold serve at home against these types of teams. And so that's going to be a damaging loss that you're going to have to make up somewhere in the near future. You've got a tough one coming up Tuesday night at Wake Forest, and then once you get past next week, that's a really tough 4-game stretch. You're going to have to make up this loss somewhere in that 4-game stretch where maybe you weren't expecting to, and that's the position the Tar Heels have played themselves into, unfortunately, and that's the difference in that last-second shot going in or hitting the rim and falling out.
So next week it's at Wake on Tuesday, then Carolina at home against Boston College next weekend. But the 4-game stretch Adam is talking about is then at Pitt, at Duke, Pitt at home, at Clemson. Very difficult stretch, 3 of the 4 on the road, and some very challenging road trips for sure for Carolina in that stretch as well. So the Heels try to regroup and figure things out, and that game against Wake is a tough one. The Deacs won again today on the road at Virginia Tech. I believe they are now 14-4 and 6-1 in conference play. Quick programming note for us before we go. Hubert Davis Live originally was scheduled to be in person on Monday at Top of the Hill. That is now going to be in studio. That is strictly because of some travel things with the Tar Heels for that Wake Forest game. No other reason. That game has been moved in, or that show has been moved in studio. So Coach and I are actually going to record that earlier in the day on Monday. It will still air 7 o'clock in its normal spot on the Tar Heel Sports Network, but will be recorded in the studio as opposed to in person at Topo, which it originally was scheduled to be. And that'll wrap things up for us. Difficult finish certainly today for the Tar Heels. 72-71 the final score. Stanford gets the win over the Tar Heels here on the Rapid Reactions edition of the Carolina Insider, presented by Modelo.